Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be discussing the upcoming Cards patch, which includes both a balance patch as well as an update to a couple of mechanics in the game, things have been reintroduced to the shop, etc, etc, etc. We will get into all of that because I have a lot to say. So first up, let's go over the balance changes. And you see, this time I'm reading the articles. Normally I just pull up the cards, but since we're looking at the other one as well. Also, I find it amusing reading what the devs say when it comes to talking about balance patches. So, hello everyone, as we move on. As we move with full force into the winter season, the team has been working hard on various improvements, preparations for the upcoming winter expansion, as well as several newer updated features that we are excited to tell you, or share more about with all of you soon. The August patch was one that came with a lot of challenges for us, and unfortunately led to a lot of various issues with the number of players' experience, and we sincerely apologize to all affected players. This was people playing on Android. When they updated it, their accounts got lost, unless they had made a Cards account, or something like that. I do not remember exactly how it works, but it was bad. Since the last balance patch in August, we have been monitoring and analyzing the current meta. We have identified some key areas to focus on, and to that end, we will be updating 3 cards in the upcoming October patch, which is currently slated for release in early October. And as you can see, the first card up already, Observer Core. So this is a card that myself, as well as thousands of other people, have been asking to be changed, basically since it came out. In my case, since before it came out. So, Observer Core, 1 cost British Order, choose a card that costs 4 or more in your hand, reduce its cost by 2. Most famously used to play Southern Plan or Daylight Bombing on turn 2. Now, it's choose cards that cost 5 or more in your hand, reduce its cost by 2. So, most notably, this can no longer be played on this can no longer be played on Southern Plan, this can no longer be played on Daylight Bombing, this can no longer be played on An Hour of Need. Those are really the big 3. This can still be used to get Blackwatch down on 3, this can still be used to get Commonwealth out on, like, I don't know, for 4. There's still uses to this card. However, will it see play? Definitely not immediately in the meta, I do not think. Because really the main point of this was to hard mulligan for it. At least we're not going to see it as a 4 copies card anymore, maybe like 1 or 2, just because, you know, it still lets you cheat out some cards quicker. Overall, I think this is fine. I feel like there's ways you could have changed it to be more interesting, like 2 cost, reduce a card's cost by 2, just so it's more of like a Commandos-esque card, where it goes credit equal, but you're playing a card that lets you play other cards, and all of those, like Trigger Crusaders and Commandos and yada yada yada. I do see the fundamental problem of if you make it unrestricted credit cost reduction, there's potential like OTK combos that you could theoretically enable. Or, you know, I think just reworking the card to be something other than a straight credit cheat could be possible. But this is what we got. And you know what? I'm fine with this. I'm absolutely fine with this. Because it can no longer be used to play Southern Plan on turn 2. You can't do that anymore. You can play Southern Plan on turn 3 with Pioneer Company, and that's still dumb, but turn 2, it's gone. Credit denials, tier 1 rank in the meta should be gone. It's still like a solid deck. I'm sure there's some people running to the hills being like, oh, they completely annihilated credit denial. It's a solid deck, and if the only reason you played it was because you could play turn 2 Southern Plan, I think that tells you something about the type of deck that is. So their little blurb about it is that the Observer Core played a critical role in the, this is the historical part. In Cards, Observer Core is currently serving a key component in credit denial decks, becoming very powerful when combined with cards such as Southern Plan and Daylight Bombing. To address this strong combo, we're adjusting Observer Core to reduce cards in hand with a cost of 5 or more, as opposed to the old 4 or more. While it's still a strong card, this adjustment will have significant impact on Credit Denial combo, as well as keeping its power in check for potential future OTK combos. I imagine the thing they have in mind with this is the Spitfire, like the 4/4 Spitfire that gains Fury. You can't reduce that anymore, and that's been sort of central to a lot of OTK combos, and with Refit coming back in, there's potential for that to be a thing again. So that's fine. Then we get to Shinano, which, oh boy, Shinano. So maybe if I feel like editing this, I'll insert the clip of me talking about like reviewing Shinano. Because I'm pretty sure I mentioned that Shinano is going to be like one of the first cards nerfed from the expansion. And honestly, when I said that, I don't think I truly believed it. Not because it wasn't a super strong card, but because I didn't think 1939 liked nerfing strong elites that weren't win conditions. Because, like, Shinano's insane. Yes. Is Shinano particularly better than Desperate Measures? I don't think so. And Desperate Measures existed in the game since the very first expansion to, like, the introduction of rotation, unnerfed through that entire period, and, like, since the nature of power creep and just, like, you get more options with more cards, Desperate Measures existed in the first expansion of the game, where, like, people were still playing carpet bombing in every deck. So, like, the fact that Desperate Measures went that entire time without being nerfed, and that Shinano gets nerfed in, like, a couple months, kind of confuses me. I guess they have some internal stats showing Shinano has, like, crazy win rates or something. I don't know. But how did they nerf it? Because if you ask me, oh, Shinano, how should you nerf it? I would just say make it cost 4. Very simple. Or make it not hit HQ if you, like, specifically have a problem with the burn aspect. I would actually make it substantially better for control, and situationally better for aggro as well. So maybe that should be included in with the 4. But instead, Shinano now reads, distribute damage to enemy targets equal to the number of units on the battlefield. And now you might immediately think, well, how is that different? The previous one is the number of cards on the battlefield, which includes HQs. So basically, Shinano just does 2 less damage than it used to. Every single time you play Shinano, it will fire 2 less shots. And that is a ludicrously big nerf. Like, this card is borderline unplayable now in Control, in my opinion. Like, obviously, we're going to have to test it out. I could be wrong. But just looking at it, I think Shinano is just unplayable in Control anymore. And maybe you still play it in Jagro, just because you do flood the board. It could be used as burn. But even then, I feel like there's, like, I don't know, wouldn't you just prefer to run, like, an Underfire? Combos with, like, your Type 94s and surprise attacks? Or even just a Tora Tora? If you're particularly looking for something good in, like, the mirror. Because firing 2 less shots per Shinano just makes it so much more inconsistent. Like, the 2 extra shots from the HQs is what allowed you to play Shinano on a board of a lot of 1 health units with, like, a fair degree of confidence that it's going to clear the board. Now if it's just firing shots per units on board, it makes it so difficult to use as a control card, because every single time it hits the HQ, that's just a unit that's not dying. And, like, picture this before. Like, your opponent, I don't know, your opponent has, like, a 22nd and a cavalry on the board. And you have no units. Before, you would play Shinano, you'd fire 4 shots at 3 targets, 2 of which have 1 health. There's a very high likelihood that both units die. Now you fire 2 shots at 2 targets. There's a very high likelihood one of them survives. So, yeah, Shinano is just absolute dumpster. And I think Jagro could use a nerf. I do. I think... I do think Credit Denial was holding back a lot of decks. I think, and like a lot of decks that could be good into Jago, I do think Jago still has an edge over other decks, which is why it's like the number one most played deck in the game right now, easily tier 1, arguably the best deck in the game. However, is this going to solve Jago being nuts? And the answer is very simply no. Because the decks that are good against Jago, Shinano's not like a key card against them. Shinano's basically good in the mirror, and that's like it's best in the mirror, and then it just gets diminishing returns against everything else. And Shinano is one of the best, and the reason it's good in the mirror is because Shinano is one of the best cards to play against Jago. So basically, this change makes the mirror a bit of a clown fiesta, and also makes Japan control substantially less of a viable option to counter Jago. So like, well done, 1939. Congrats. Like, you also Shinano. It's a flashy new. It's like one of the most flashy new elites of the expansion. So like, I don't have the crafting rates on this, but I'm going to imagine that this was easily one of like the most crafted elites from Brothers in Arms, and now you are nerfing it into the ground. And unlike Blizzard with Hearthstone, there's no like ability to uncraft it for full reward. You can't convert your now obliterated Shinano into an elite wildcard. So congrats, you just like ruined the experience of a ton of like relatively low collection free-to-play players, well, without changing the meta. Now you might ask me, well, what would I do to change Jago? And what I would do is change Aichi. Like the 2-cost Aichi. The 2-cost Aichi is absolutely insane. It was never intended to be a card in Jago when they made the change. As far as I'm aware, the change was intended to support Japan main air as an alternative to Brit air, because Japan main air had like very little support and had seen no play. And they made the change, and immediately it got put into Britain Japan air, and then also into Jago, because the card's insane. And it has seen very limited play in any kind of relevant meta Japan air deck, which was the intention. So now it's just like a massive power outlier that's ludicrously strong, and it's easily the number one reason Jago is so good into other decks right now, because it makes your board invulnerable to board clears. It also lets you get in a ton of guaranteed damage, which is very difficult to block. It basically guarantees a 2-for-1 against any deck. And then it has massive synergy with a card like Audacity, which you already want to run in the deck because it's a good card. Like, people were running Audacity before Aichi. Like, the 2-cost Aichi. Like, before they put the 2-cost Aichis into their deck. Audacity is just a good card. So you have this card that's, like, guaranteed 2-for-1, guaranteed burn damage, incredibly sticky, and just, like, farms value off control and mid-range and aggro. And then it also has synergy with one of the best cards in the deck already. Like, just change Aichi. Make it cost 3. Make it have 1 attack. Revert it to its old version, for all I care. Like, do anything that affects the meta in a meaningful way. Why are you just obliterating Shinano? Like, it genuinely upsets me so much, the clear lack of thought that went into this patch. Very, very clearly, this patch was not tested. This patch was basically just like, oh, well, according to the stats, you play Shinano when you win, so let's nerf Shinano. You play Shinano when you win because you played double Aichi earlier in the game. Like, this actually just blows my mind. It genuinely mad. And, you know, what they could have done is nerf Shinano and Aichi, because they're both strong cards. And for whatever reason, this patch is limited to 3 cards, and we've seen the Southern Plan nerf to Credit Denial, and the Shinano nerf to Jago. So, those are the best 2 decks in the game. Is it going to be a third nerf? Is it going to be a nerf to Jago? Is it going to be a nerf to Aichi? Is it going to be a nerf to, like, their ludicrous draw potential with Martyr, expansions, Dina, anything? Well, I suppose we should first read the description. A formidable air carrier, the IGN Shinano has cemented itself as a powerful card in Japanese aggro decks since its release with the Brothers in Arms expansions last summer. We aim to dial back the power a bit with this adjustment. It was also a staple in Japan Control, which did not exist before this expansion. It's a staple in Japan because it's a good card. Did you not think that would happen when you released this? It's very obviously just an auto-include in every Japanese deck, but namely, the archetype for Japan that did not exist. Oh my goodness, why? Why 1939? Why? And as you can see, we have the last change, the 164th Infantry Regiment. I'm pretty sure nobody actually knows what that is, because it's a buff to this guy. Woo! The crappy US 0-op 1-1 Infantry now has Blitz. And don't get me wrong, this is actually a very meaningful change. This card is substantially better now. Like, it is difficult to explain how much better this card is than it used to be. Like, this went from, like, a D tier card to, like, an A tier card. The problem is the meta is based around S tier cards, so is this going to make an impact? Maybe. You're definitely going to see people playing this on ladder. My issue with, like, thinking about how this is going to fit into the meta is this is worse than Red Devils, and I think it's worse than Greyhound for mid-range. So the question is, do you also want to run this on top of Devils and Greyhound? And honestly, I think the #1 card to take out at this point is Combat Engineers. Because Combat Engineers' main role, I feel like, was against Brit Air, like getting your units from 2 to 3 attack. But, like, Brit Air's gone, so maybe you take out Combat Engineers for 164th. It's another 1-cost unit. This one has Blitz. It can be used as a quasi-buff, like you can just, like, sack it into a guy. Namely, this makes it much better against Jagro, and that's my issue. Not that it's good into Jagro, but my issue is it's only good into Jagro, I feel like. Because against Jagro, you can just, like, you know, play out a Red Devils, they push a Cavalry, and then you, like, sack a 164th into it, get a 2-4 Red Devils, and take the front line. Like, this is the only 0-op, 1-cost 0-op infantry outside of Japan. Sorry, the only 1-cost 0-op Blitz infantry outside of Japan, and excluding the 0-cost 1-1 Blitz. Oh, actually, I guess Soviets has some. Scratch what I just said, but like, this is good. This goes 1-for-1 with Cavalry, Yokosuka, Bicycle Regiment, and the destruction effect makes it actually go better than 1-for-1 if you can have another unit on board. The problem is if you're using it on turn 1 to trade out, you don't actually get the destruction effect, so it's actually just a worse 554th Infantry, which is the 0-cost 1-1 Blitz. So yeah, like, it's a much better card. It's hard to use, and I don't think it will have a meaningful impact on frontline. Like, maybe you run 1 or 2, but I don't think this is gonna, like, suddenly make frontline, like, the Jagro counter that rises to tier 1. And yeah, those are the 3 cards. Those are the 3 cards. Why we got 164th instead of Aichi, I don't know. I genuinely could not tell you. Let's see the little blurb on this. This is a unit we feel like could use a bit more oomph in cards to make it more useful in decks such as US Frontline. As such, we're adding Blitz to this unit, which better represents its prowess in combat and allow for an increased presence in popular decks. That's it for now. As mentioned in previous dev blogs, we continue to prioritize smaller adjustments and balance with extensive changes primarily brought on through future expansions. The changes outlined in this blog are expected to go live in early October. So, that's the patch. Now, what do I think of this patch? I think it's a very... I mean, it deletes credit denial. So, like, I don't want to say it's like an F-tier patch, because, like, they deleted credit denial. However, I do think it's important to note that they deleted credit denial, but, like, the majority of the community has been asking them to delete credit denial since the card came out. Like, Southern Plan was released over a year ago, and, like, in that 14-15 month period from Southern Plan being released to now, credit denial has never not been asked to be nerfed. So, like, a 15-month-old nerf to a card that should have never been released is a really low bar. And then otherwise, I mean, the 164th change, great. I'm happy to buff new cards, especially new cards in nations that are struggling right now. My issue is, why are you limited to 3 changes? And if you are limited to 3 changes, make changes that are going to impact the meta, not changes that are fun. Um, and then finally, the Shinano nerf instead of Aichi. Just, like, this is an embarrassing patch, if I'm 1939. Um, you completely misaddressed the issue with Jagro. Um, you deal with credit denial, but, like, you deal with credit denial. It's something you should have done so long ago like that's not something to be praised for, and then you make like a random change because you don't know what else to do. 1939 should genuinely be embarrassed about this patch, and that's my take. What do I think the meta is going to be like after this? Jagro. Soviet control is going to come back because credit denial's gone. So like Jagro is not just going to run rampant. It's going to run rampant on ladder. But like in tournaments, it's not like auto ban Jagro. Like Jagro can be countered. It's a tier 1 deck, but it's not air. It's not an S tier deck. Like there is meaningful ways to deal with Jagro. However, it's going to be hard because Aichi exists. So yeah. Oh, another card that they could have changed is supply shortage, because that's still broken. The problem with changing supply shortage is it's the only counter to Aichi, so, you know, this patch, man. And then we get to a more upbeat part, because it's not about balance changes. We get the October update, the return of Theaters of War campaigns, and other stuff. I don't know why that's the only thing in the title. Hello everyone, we're thrilled to announce the upcoming October update. This update will include the return of Theater of War PvE campaigns, the ability to convert owned cards into gold versions using the gold currency. We're finally getting gold card crafted, which I've been asking for since 2020. As well as an update to medkits to include more variations with longer durations, as well as the balance update to 3 cards, and bug fixes and general improvements. So, first up, medkits. So the medkit system, previously you could get a 2-hour medkit, which would increase the amount of XP you get, like the national XP progression you get, in that 2-hour window. And it's not 2 hours of in-game time, it's like you activate it, and like the next actual 2 hours you have to play to earn your XP. So the 2-hour one is now turned into a 24-hour one, which means that like the one medkit that I got for free and have been holding on to, I'm finally going to be able to just like get Germany to 350 in a day. Just going to play like 14 hours of Heinz. So that one's been converted into a 24-hour medkit. And then they've introduced a 72-hour medkit for 40 diamonds, and a 168-hour or 7-day medkit for 80 diamonds. And honestly, these are like insanely cheap. Just like compared to the reward you get for them, and like the amount of stuff you can get out of them. I guess the one thing that makes them not insanely cheap is there is a fixed amount of national XP that you could theoretically get on your own without spending any money on it. So like from 1939's perspective, they're not introducing new like resources to the player for this. However, if you just like really want to like get into the game quickly, this is a easy way to like level up your nation and get a bunch of wild cards and whatnot. We're gonna look at the gold card crafting last, because the other thing is the Theaters of War campaign. So you might not know this, since this came out in like June 2020. But the Theaters of War campaign is a PvE expansion to cards. Now, if you buy it, it was taken out of the shop with rotation. If you buy it now, you will get the PvE content, which is a bunch of different campaigns with, like, it's scripted campaigns against the AI, with unique mechanics. There's 5 campaigns, or there's 5 levels for each nation, and each nation has 3 different strategies or like decks you can build to go through the levels, and as you go, like, you upgrade cards, and it's really neat. Like, it's very fun. It's top tier. I'm sad they have not introduced more PvE content. However, if you buy this, you will no longer get the cards. since like some of them have been rotated and the rest have been like introduced into like just the core package of cards. So what you get for buying this is, other than like the content of being able to play the missions, is you will get the unique Theaters of War card backs. There's one for each nation, as well as you unlock emotes for each nation if you get a perfect score in the Theater of War campaign. And they'll cost 148 diamonds, which is like around 20 Canadian. So like, it's not the most expensive thing ever. However, you don't get anything substantial from it. What struck me as very weird about this is, in the original one, on top of the cards, you also got the HQs. There's the HQ for each nation, like the custom HQ, Guadalcanal, Alexandria, etc. Or not Alexandria. That one's the base one. But you get my point. You got like the different HQs with the jungle background, the desert background. You got the Soviet one, Moscow with like the snow. That's by far my favorite board in the game. You no longer get that. Those have just been like introduced on rotation through the shop, which is bizarre because those things show up in the Theaters of War campaign. So it's bizarre that those have now been detached. But I guess the issue is that they've been selling the like, actually, I think one's in the game right now. Yeah, Guadalcanal is in the game right now for 100 diamonds for just Guadalcanal. So it would be weird if they sold the entire Theaters of War for 148 diamonds and it included Guadalcanal and the 4 other HQs. So that sucks, but, you know, the PvE is fun. And it's cool that they've reintroduced it. So if you didn't get a chance to play it and you want to give 1939 some money, go right ahead and get into this. And now we get to gold card conversion. This is something I have been asking for so long, so you think I'd be excited about it. So let's just get straight into it. Get ready for a brand new way to acquire gold cards. Up till this point, players have been only able to acquire gold cards as drops in card packs, or through national progression, or end of season rewards, or draft. They seem to have forgotten about draft. This will change in the October update, giving you the ability to convert cards into gold versions by using the gold currency. This is the first time that you will be able to choose which specific cards you would like to convert to gold cards, having only been able to select collect non-specific gold cards up till this point through limited avenues such as end-of-season rewards. The ability to convert specific cards into gold cards carries an exclusive price point for those who want to show off their favorite cards in their gold versions. Note that a gold card functions exactly the same as a non-gold, making this purely cosmetic. The price of converting a single card varies based on rarity as follows. So to convert a single standard card into a gold card, and no, this is conversion. It's not crafting, so you have to own the card, and then you turn the owned standard version into a gold version. 100 per standard. So for a stack of 4 standards, like if you want 4 golden Shermans, that's 400 gold. That's 4 packs. That's an officer pack and then some. That's like 2.5 drafts. Okay. For a single limited, it's 200 gold. For a single special, it's 400 gold. And for an elite, it is 800 gold. Oh boy. Oh boy, howdy. Note that you will need to own a copy of the card to change it into a gold card. Changing a card into a gold card will automatically update it in any decks that card to now contain the gold card. If you have multiple copies, it will only convert 1. Yada yada yada. Okay, so what do I think about this? Well, I think this is an absolute disgrace. I am insulted. I am mad. I am more mad about this than the balance patch. Because at least the balance patch, it's like, okay, we're getting rotation and, like, new cards in a couple months. And, like, when have they ever not done a bad balance patch? This is insulting. I have been waiting for gold card crafting for over 3 years. And not just me. Like, the player base who puts their most time and energy into this game, the ones who would have the resources to craft gold cards, the ones who aren't interested in just finishing out their collection, but actually interested in having gold cards and using them and playing with them, those are the people who have been waiting for this for 3 years. And this is what you do to them. This is insulting. Like, this is easily the most pissed off I have been at 1939 in, like, a year. There's been reasons to be pissed off at them more in the past, but this is disgusting, and let me explain why. This isn't just like, oh, it's expensive, and I want to, like, have a full gold collection. This is insulting, and you should be insulted as well. And let me explain why. So, first of all, when they scrapped the 10 gold for 3 wins, they limited the amount of gold in the game. Like, they limited the amount of gold you will have access to. You can no longer get an infinite amount of gold. And like, for reference, a player like myself, I probably average, like, 300, like 250, to, like, 300 wins per season. There's some players who get, like, way more than that. And, yeah, 10 gold per 3 wins. That's a lot of gold that we are missing out on. That's like an extra 1,000 gold, or so per month. And, like, for some people, like Head, who gets like 600 wins per season, that's like 2,000 gold per month. However, instead, we have a fixed rate of gold where you get the 20 gold per first win of the day and your 50 gold quest, which means you're limited to, like, I think the math is like 12,800 or so gold, per 6 months, which is, per 6 months is the category I'm using because of the expansion. A new expansion comes out every 6 months. So, what can you do with that? Well, the answer is, you can craft, if you play every single day, complete every single mission, get every single first one of the day, for 6 months, you will be able to craft 15 gold cards. Sorry, 15 gold elites. And again, this isn't getting an elite. It's turning an elite into a shinier version of said elite. Or, you know, like, 5 elites and, like, 20 specials. That is a disgusting rate. That is embarrassing. And another thing to complain about this, just beyond the price points on this being laughable, like, they say that, oh, it's so high because now you get to pick which ones you want. Sure, but it doesn't affect you, 1939. Why do you care? Like, this, you realize that you're going to introduce this, and then there's going to be people who, like, break the bank. Like, they just spend all of their gold on this, and then realize that they have absolutely nothing. And then you rotate half the cards in 6 months. And then a couple other reasons why this doesn't make any sense to me is, first of all, why does 1939 want this? There's no diamond to gold conversion. How do they make money out of this? Like, if somebody wants to drop 200 gold or $200 on the game to, like, get a bunch of gold cards, they can't. Like, they would have to, like, spend $200 on officer packs and then, like, try to open gold cards naturally, which is a horrific rate. Like, that's, like, not even a doable rate. Why would you introduce it in a non, like, monetary exchange, like, for gold, which does not have a monetary exchange? Like, this doesn't make 1939 money beyond people spending all of their gold making gold cards and then having to buy the expansion with money. But that's not even true, because people who have gold to spend on gold cards will have an infinite amount of wild cards to just craft the whole expansion when it comes out. So yeah, this is baffling financial decision from 1939. And third, why would you make it gold? Gold is the lifeblood of the in-game currency, or the in-game economy. Like, with gold, you can buy normal packs, you can buy officer packs, you can buy draft tickets. Within draft, you get, like, a number of rewards, including packs. You can get gold cards, you can get wild cards, or if you open packs or officer packs, you can get gold cards from officer packs, as well as you can get wild cards from officer packs, as well as both of those go down the crate. And if you fill up the crate through spending gold on packs, you get draft tickets, you get more wild cards, and you get gold cards. It's this massive cycle of converting gold into gold cards or regular cards, or wild cards. So the one standout thing here is wild cards. If you have the gold to convert gold, like if you have gold, you will naturally convert gold into wild cards. However, in the process, you know what you get way more of than wild cards or gold cards or draft tickets? You get way more normal cards, so you're not going to have cards to spend wild cards on. So wild cards are currently this resource in the game that really just sit there and do absolutely nothing. Especially for people with full collections. Like, people who play every day are sitting on, like, hundreds, if not thousands of wild cards. Like, okay, let me pull up the game here. Look at this. I'm currently sitting on almost 2,000 wild cards. And I'm only sitting on 7,000 gold. So, why would you make gold card crafting cost gold, which everything else in the game costs gold? If you want to play draft, it costs gold. Like, by making people spend gold at exorbitant rates on making gold cards, you are making them unable to interact with the rest of the game. They can't open packs, they can't open crates, they can't play draft. But hey, they get to pick what gold cards they want, so it all works out to be fine. And meanwhile, they're sitting on 2,000 wild cards they can't spend on anything. Why would you not make gold card crafting based on wild cards? Literally, the second they introduced wild cards, people were like, oh, so what, we're eventually going to have a wild card to gold card conversion rate. Like, spend 2 wild cards of the same rarity to make it into a gold card. Or spend an extra wild card to convert a card you already have into a gold version of it. And you can, there is a money to wild card conversion rate through buying packs. Because packs will get you wild cards at a much higher rate than packs will get you anything that can eventually convert back into gold. Yeah, this just blows my mind. So, personally, I am not going to use this system. I refuse on principle to craft any gold cards, and that is coming from somebody who was obsessed with gold cards. If you want to spend them, that's perfectly fine, that's up for you. I mean, like, you do you. But personally, I would recommend not using this system. We deserve a better system. We deserve cheaper rates on gold cards. We deserve wild card conversion rates. This is embarrassing. This is easily the most frustrating and out-of-touch patch I have seen from 1939, basically since they released, like, Spitfire and the Wellington change, during the air meta. This is... I don't know what else to say. I am just disappointed to be a player of this game. I'm disappointed to have said nice things about 1939 in the past. This company continues to find new ways to just baffle me in some of the decision-making. But yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for making a 40-minute rant. Hopefully you found it entertaining. Hopefully you found it somewhat educational on why I feel the way that I do about the balance changes and the gold card crafting. And, you know, there's some fine things in this patch. Like, again, the 1/64th change is fine. It's going to be fun to try that out. Bringing back Theaters of War is fine. The longer XP rates are fine. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the patch. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you disagree with me, feel free to explain why. I would love to engage with you in either in the comments or in my Discord. And subscribe if you haven't already, so you get to hear me rant about more things related to cards. And with that, I will leave you and catch you in the next one.
What a performance there by J-King.
J-King, full plot armor.
J-King is pushing himself into the ranks of the legend.
J-King is our world champion! J-King 7! What? The back-to-back Cards world champion!